Yeah, I just want to put a quick video out about high potency iodine, and this actually contains iodine and iodide. It actually says on it 8,333%, and a lot of people warn about taking too much iodine, but it's not that much really, because the Japanese average diet, the average person in Japan, their diet is 13,500 micrograms, or 13.5 milligrams. So this would be a total of 12.5. You don't need to take this every single day, but back in the day, back in the 1920s, 30s, except about 1940, even therapeutic doses of iodine were in the order of 50,000 micrograms, or 50 milligrams, to 300,000 micrograms, or 300 milligrams. They say the RDA is 155 micrograms, or 0.155 milligrams. It's way too low, because they're assuming 100% absorption, for the thyroid, and that's just enough to keep the thyroid from getting goiter. It's not relating to other organs in the body, particularly like with males, they need it for prostate health. It's actually all the cells require it, but some of the organs require it more. In females, the breast, the larger the breast, the more iodine they require. Now, one thing they found out in 1996 from studies is one thing that works best with iodine is selenium. You want to take a high potency selenium, and you see, that's another thing too. I mean, I think the recommended daily allowance is 70 micrograms, and you'll see there's 200 micrograms in this, right? Not milligrams, micrograms. But a lot of people that are into, like, I guess you could say, orthomolecular medicine, if you want to call it that, where they're using nutrients and minerals and vitamins to heal the body. If you have an actual health problem, a lot of times they'll recommend 800 micrograms to 1,000, or 1 gram of selenium. So actually, when I take one of these, I'll have the 200 micrograms in a pill, plus I'll have 200 mcg in a Nature's Way of Life, plus whatever's in a diet. So it'll be more than likely I'll have more than 400, which is not too much. But some people will tell you that's too much, but I don't really think so, because it seems to work. Selenium seems to work synergistically with a lot of different things. Now, I just want to also mention here, if you're taking a lot of vitamin D, not that it's the subject of this video, you want to make sure you take K2 with it, vitamin K2, because it directs the vitamin D into directs the vitamin D to take the calcium and put it into the bones and the teeth, versus the blood vessels, where you might have calcification of the arteries and veins. But also, when you're taking vitamin D, you're using up magnesium. So, like, when I'm throwing that example out here too, because a lot of times when you're just taking one thing, you want to take something else with it, especially when you're taking a little extra. So if you're taking a little extra iodine, you want to make sure you take more selenium. If you're taking extra vitamin D, you want to make sure you're taking K2 and also magnesium. If you're taking a lot of vitamin C, you might want to take NaC with it, N-acetylcysteine. But, you know, the deal is, nothing is a cure-all or a perfect supplement that works itself. Everything is working together synergistically. But iodine is one of the most important supplements you can possibly have. It's one of the most ignored today. Back when it was discovered by Lugal, the French physician Lugal, in 1820, it was coming on very strong and being used extensively in the medical profession for many years, from 1820 to about the 1940s. Then the pharmaceutical industry took over. But they're giving out iodine in much, much, much higher doses than they are today. But you got to watch. You can get hyperthyroidism. But the thing is, for the most part, most Americans are way short of iodine. And you can tell, I've noticed that when I went out and took the iodine, I was taking kelp pills for a while. I was taking quite a few of those. My energy levels went way up, and I felt like I wasn't susceptible to the cold that easily. And my energy levels were fantastic. Felt great. So I also got Lugol's. This actually is Lugol's, but in the pill form. It's got Lugol's in it. I think it has Lugol's in it, but It's iodine and iodide. So it's a strong dose, but it's simple to take because, you know, it's just a pill. That's all it is. You don't have to use an eyedropper and all this type of stuff. But I also have Lugol's, and I guess that'll be a subject of something else. But one other thing I like doing here is I've been using this PARAZAPPER a lot too, man. This thing, I'll tell you what, yeah, I've been harping on these products quite a bit. One thing I kind of like about this deal is, you know, you gotta, when you buy these, I mean, yeah, I don't think a zapper does everything in the world, but it's doing something. I can tell you, it's some kind of electron donor to the body, at least temporarily. But with these, you got to keep replenishing them. In other words, with this, you get some rechargeable batteries, and you're wearing the zapper and you're using it all the time, like I'm using it right now. It just works and works and works. You know, sometimes I like these electronic devices besides just the supplements in a diet, because the electronic devices seem to be permanent. And you know, this is the only thing I ever seen that this damn portable and does that much. So, the flag of rebellion. We're rebelling against the medical community. That's what the hell it is. I'm telling you right now. It's a big racket. It's a big racket. So, anyway, you know, it pays to think for yourself, you know, do on your own, and do your own research, because most everything out there, including the most high-dollar professionals that are giving you advice, they got an angle where they have to make money. I mean, if there's no money in this, they're not going to recommend this. If there's no money in this, they're not going to recommend that either. I mean, if, you know, this, I mean, the FDA will tell you, you know, this doesn't cure disease. I say it does, but whatever. You know, I think it does a lot more than just cure disease. I think it boosts your energy levels up. But, you know, this is another thing I found that extensive use of boosted my energy levels up. The one thing I found about iodine when I started taking more of it was my energy levels went up through the roof. So I've been starting to take this, and I'm not afraid to take it. I mean, you know, temporarily, say you took too much, and if you're not going to take it, say you took too much for a few days, it's not going to affect you. It's, in other words, it would have to be too much for a much longer period of time. So, you know, maybe at times I might take one of these every other day, but I don't think there's going to be a problem, because basically it's still below the Japanese average diet. And I know plenty of the Japanese, you were talking about the Japanese average diet is 13,500 mcg of iodine. That's the average. So, I mean, 50% are doing way more than that. Or more than that, or sometimes some are probably 10% are doing way more than that, and they're not having problems, you know. So it's like, you know, back in the old days, they had no problem giving people many times, even with the Japanese standard Japanese diet was. So I don't know. I think it's some kind of criminal conspiracy today, whereby the doctors are totally ignoring iodine, and they don't want you to, you know, take it. But, you know, it's not the only thing I found that boosts my energy. I found this thing, when I'm using it very extensively for most of the day, this thing does boost my energy. But not too many people want to go through all the effort of using a PARAZAPPER for most of the day, but I do. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing the paddles right here, so these are copper-clad paddles wrapped in cloth that's wet with tap water for electric conductivity, and frequencies go through my body, and I feel the energy. I feel the energy surge after, you know. Actually, this was actually proven when I took the Thunderbolt body tester, which was another device on another video, and I had very good chi body power after using this extensively for many hours a day. And you know, it's not, in other words, and then when I added the iodine, I was like, God, man, I feel like, you know, I'm in my 60s. I feel like I'm in my 20s. So, I mean, this is what I'm doing. Okay, this is what I'm doing. So, but again, you know, it wasn't found out, you know, in earlier days, back in the 1800s, they didn't know about adding selenium to the diet. that it works very well with iodine. That was actually something that was discovered back in 1996. So, you know, only like 20-something years ago. And during a time when the big heyday of iodine was around, which is like from the early to mid 1800s up to about 1940 or so, you know, nobody was telling people to take selenium with iodine. So, but they were telling people to take a lot more iodine than is recommended today. So, you know, and again, even with the selenium, I mean, the Chinese studies showed a toxicity to be at start to get toxic, not the words deadly toxic, start to get toxic at 1,100 micrograms a day, which is 1.1 grams. Now, typically, a lot of doctors, medical professionals will tell you 200 mcg is too high. But people that are practicing health through nutrition and vitamins and minerals, they'll tell you that's a minimum. And, you know, if a person's sick or they need more, that they'll say even an optimal could be 400 to 800 micrograms a day. But, you know, if you took 1,000 or 1,200 in a day and you only did it one day, it's not going to hurt you. It's like, you know, it's got to build up over a period of time. And the same thing with iodine. If you took, I don't know, if you took some astronomical amount of iodine in one day, it's not, one day is probably not going to make a big difference. But you know what you should do is just, you know, up the dosage slightly at a time and see how you feel. If you feel good, maybe just keep it right there and don't go any further. But if you see vast improvements, you know you're on the right track. You know, sometimes listening to your body is better than listening to the money-orientated professionals out there, because they got to sell you something that is high dollar. And I'm all into what works for low dollar, which is typically what you call not the alternative medicine, but the traditional medicine. Traditional meaning that it's been proven for hundreds of years or maybe thousands of years. It's not alternative. That actually is the medicine. Actually, the stuff that's going on today with pharmaceutical is the alternative quack medicine, but it's all profit orientated and they got the big bucks behind them. So we got to keep revolting against this tyranny, okay? Death to tyrants, as that used to say back there in the rebel days, right? Anyway, over now.